Here's an instance of the virtual mix rack loaded in on a drum bus, and 3 of the slots are in use with 3 different modules. Now each slot can be bypassed with the power button at the top of each slot, and that's for slot A, and they're all numbered, slot A, B, and C, all the way up to 8 of them. And there's separate power buttons for each slot to bypass each one on and off. Now each slot can also be soloed, as you would expect with the S button, and when you just click the S button, it'll work like an XOR solo where it'll just solo one at a time. Now if you hold down the Command key, you can solo multiple slots at the same time and add or remove from the group of slots that are soloed, so you can have a kind of solo group. And that's the Command key on Mac or the Control key on Windows. Now, pertaining to each slot, there's also automation parameters, and it's important to understand that the automation is married to the slot and not the module that's in the slot. Now, what we do is click on the slot number over here, for example, slot A, and we're going to get a little menu that shows us, first of all, which modules are in which slots, and then pertaining to this slot, which of this module's parameters are mapped to which of these automation nodes. And you'll see as we click on these, it'll update and show us the parameters pertaining to each of the slots and the modules that are loaded in. So this is for automation. We see these automation nodes, and this is what we're going to interact with in the host sequencer. I'm just going to click in the background to dismiss that window. And if I go to automation mode here, I'm working with Logic Pro X here. We'll see that for the virtual mix rack in slot A, we have these different parameter numbers for each of the 8 slots. So if you want to figure out which parameters map to which of these host automation numbers, we need to go to the automation menu here and see which parameters map that way. So that's for automation. Now, a couple of general controls. When we're turning the knobs, we can reset the knobs to their default values one of 2 ways. We can double click, and that'll return it to a detente position, or we can option click. And by doing that, it'll return it to a default position as well. Now for fine movements, we can hold down the Command key as we're turning. That's with regular motion, but with Command held down, I'm getting much finer increments. You'll see in the field here as I'm moving that it's in 0.dB increments versus more coarser movement, and that's the Control key on Windows. And also related to how these knobs turn, we have 2 different modes. This is the traditional mode where we can move up and down to move the knob, but we also have a rotary control over here. When that's enabled, it's highlighted, and it'll work in rotary fashion where you can turn it from side to side like in a circle. And that's great if you're working with control surfaces that have touch control. Very useful. I personally prefer it off for straight mouse movements. Now we also have the About panel, and we can get to it from this Slate Digital icon. And this is more useful than it looks, as well as giving us information on the plugin and the different version numbers for the modules. There's a couple of hidden features here. We can click on the Slate logo, and that'll take us right to the Slate website. Just going to close that for now. Let's go back here. And also on the virtual mix rack label over here, we can click that and it'll open the manual. So we have quick access to it right from within the plugin. Let's go back there. And on this version number label, if we click it, it'll toggle and give us build information. So if you're doing troubleshooting with tech support, they might want to know what build you're using. That'll toggle between that. And we can right click on here and we get a little contextual menu. We can copy the plugin info to the clipboard. And that's really useful, again, for troubleshooting. You can just paste it into a word processor, and there you got all the information pertaining to this instance, and you can send that to tech support. So that's how the slot controls work, and I'll see you for more in the next video.